More backlash over Boeing. House Republicans demanding the National Labor Relations Board release any and all emails and messages from its investigation into Boeing's plant. The NLRB refusing, and Republicans, well, they're ready to subpoena. And then there's GE CEO Jeff Immelt, who is also a top economic advisor to the White House, but apparently the president is ignoring Immelt on this one. Here's what he had to say today, that he is, quote, way in support of Boeing team on this one. I just can't think of one reason why we want to slow that down. Not one. Still, my next guest is glad the NLRB is sticking to its guns. DMO's president, Miles Rapoport, joins me now. Miles, I mean, this whole thing is, to me, just so confusing because you have a situation where Boeing is building a plant in South Carolina, a $1 billion plant that's going to create jobs. And at a time when we need jobs, and yet you would have the NLRB stopping this, trying to bring this to a grinding halt. It's nuts.
Well, you got to go back a little bit. I mean, I think the middle class in America is under real threat. And it was created. It was our crowning achievement after World War II, when there were strong unions, a real balance between business and labor, and productivity increases were shared between the companies and labor. What's happened in the last 30 years is that labor has been undercut, undermined, lessened, and the NLRB and its inactivity has been one of the things responsible. So this is the NLRB sticking up for the law, protecting the rights of the workers to go on strike. I think they're doing the right thing.
Unfortunately, though, Miles, what you're talking about as a slight, and whether anyone agrees with you or not, that perhaps, you know, to address that with this particular case is they picked the wrong case to settle it on. The plant that's still in Washington is still hiring people, and now they're going to also get rid of, you talk about working Americans' middle-class jobs. These are incredible jobs that 1,000 people can't go to because the NLRB. How could the unions even support something like this?
No, but the NLRB is an independent law enforcement agency. It's not a law-making agency. The law says that a company cannot threaten to move a plant because workers are going on strike. That's what Boeing did. That's what the NLRB is. It's not about creating jobs in South Carolina.
They're trying to interpret a law. At least they're saying they are. But let's be honest about this. Who's running the NLRB? We have recess appointments, people who weren't even given a stamp of approval by Congress. They all worked for the SEIU. These are pro-union people wielding this giant government vehicle for the unions, and they're going to kill American jobs. It's just on this particular case, there's just no way I can see where you could argue in their favor.
No, I think you can argue it. The NLRB over the last 20 or 30 years
we're talking about
really laid
case.
Back.
But you don't make it up. You don't make it up with such an egregious act. This is hurting American jobs, not helping.
It's not an egregious act. When Boeing says we can't tolerate strikes in our Washington plant, so we're going to move the work to South Carolina, that's a violation of the law. It's saying to the workers in Washington, you may not go out on strike or you will lose your job.
Well,
the NLRB should
that's going to be up for interpretation.
It's good.
That's going to be up for interpretation. What we do know, though, is that the Washington plant has continued to hire people, and that the plant that was moved, well, people can't start their jobs. And that's because of NLRB. And listen, there's a lot of other things. I want to have you on again because I want to talk about the lawsuits that they filed in Arizona and South Dakota. They have gone on a warpath against business at a time when we need businesses to create American jobs.
I think we got to leave a strong labor movement. Thank the NLRB for helping out once in a while.